Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely fascinating, the science of how our surroundings literally sculpt who we become. We usually think of our habits, our discipline, and our daily choices as these deeply internal things, right? Like they originate entirely from within us. But what if they don't? What if the spaces you live in, that food sitting on your kitchen counter right now, or even the messy setup of your desk are actually making those choices for you?
Okay, let's dive into this agenda and outline our journey for today. First, we'll tackle the willpower myth. Then we'll trace the history of conditioning from Pavlov to Watson. After that, we'll look at Skinner and operant conditioning before connecting it all to the ZADIMA environment pillar. Finally, we'll talk about sculpting your surroundings.
Section 1. The willpower myth and why we struggle with discipline.
We've all been there, haven't we? You start out so highly motivated. You're going to eat better, you're going to work harder, but a few weeks later, bam, you crash. It really makes you wonder, why does willpower almost always fail us? Why does depending on pure motivation usually lead to this total defeat the second you get stressed or tired? Well, the truth is, relying on motivation is incredibly fragile. I mean, one bad night of sleep or one super stressful day at work and poof, that internal drive simply evaporates.
And that brings us to a really powerful reframe from Coach Omar Al-Sharif, the well-being researcher behind ZADIMA. He puts it this way: discipline is not only a moral concept, it also has a neural dimension. Just think about that for a second. We almost always view discipline as this rigid moral trait, right? Like you either have it or you're just lazy. But actually, no, it's a biological reality. It is actively shaped by your nervous system, your energy levels, and most importantly, the actual environment you live in.
Moving right along to Section 2, Conditioning from Pavlov to Watson, the science of behavior. To truly understand why our environment has such a massive grip on us, we have to look back at this sweeping timeline of just bulletproof science. It's a chain of brilliant discoveries. Look at the 1890s. Ivan Pavlov discovers classical conditioning. Remember the famous dog salivating at the sound of a bell? Then, in 1905, Edward Thorndike gives us the law of effect. Jump to 1913, and John B. Watson launches the Behaviorist Manifesto, arguing behavior is completely learned. And by 1938, B.F. Skinner introduces operant conditioning. Together, these pioneers prove that the behavior of literally all organisms is predictably shaped by the stimuli, responses, and consequences happening in their environment. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're talking about. This is Edward Thorndike's famous puzzle box. He'd place cats inside, and they basically had to figure out how to press a lever to escape and get a little treat. Through pure trial and error, the cats learned which actions were useless and which actually led to a reward. Thorndike called this the law of effect. Basically, when an action in your environment gets a satisfying outcome, you are biologically wired to repeat it. If the outcome sucks, well, you naturally stop doing it.
Now, this line of research led to a pretty radical shift in how we view human potential. It's perfectly captured by John B. Watson's bold, somewhat famous claim: anyone, regardless of their nature, can be trained to be anything. Now, okay, Watson's view is definitely extreme, but the underlying truth here is actually deeply empowering. It tells us we aren't rigidly carved in stone. You're not born permanently lazy or unmotivated. We are highly adaptable creatures, and our habits are constantly being molded by our surroundings.
Which brings us to Section 3, Skinner and operant conditioning. Let's look at the power of consequences.
So B.F. Skinner took these earlier ideas and basically proved that the consequences of our actions are the true invisible sculptors of our daily habits. Let's just quickly compare these two foundational concepts on the screen. With Pavlov's classical conditioning, you've got an automatic, almost reflexive response to a trigger, like those dogs drooling over a bell. But Skinner's operant conditioning, that is totally different. It's all about consequence-driven behavior. Skinner showed that if a rat presses a lever and gets food, that positive reinforcement guarantees it'll press the lever again. And here's the crazy part. Our modern actions operate on this exact same environmental feedback loop. If you open your phone and get a quick hit of entertainment, you're going to do it again. In a way, our smartphones are just modern puzzle boxes, and we're the ones pressing the lever.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 4, the ZADIMA environment pillar, bridging science to modern life.
So how do we actually connect those 1930s puzzle boxes to our crazy modern lives? Well, the ZADIMA framework teaches us that our biology, meaning our thoughts, our nervous system, our digestion, reacts directly to the specific environment we're placed in. ZADIMA doesn't just treat well-being as some random set of diets or gym routines, it's a fully interconnected system. Think about it. If you're stuck in a high-stress work environment, your nervous system alters your behavior. It makes you instinctively seek quick comfort. If your sleep environment is terrible, your whole biology shifts, your patience drops, your cravings skyrocket. You literally cannot separate your behavior from the biological state that your environment forces you into.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this single crucial phrase. Temptation is not only moral, it is neural. Let's say you're sitting in a kitchen completely surrounded by ultra-processed junk food, and you finally give in and eat it. You aren't failing morally. Your biology is literally just reacting to the environment it's stuck in. Decision neuroscience actually shows us that when the promise of a reward and your self-control are pulling in opposite directions, just that constant grinding exposure to temptation totally drains your brain's executive function. The friction is just way too high.
And that leads perfectly into Section 5, Sculpting Your Surroundings, Designing the Blueprint.
So the crucial point is it's time to shift from history to some real actionable steps. You have to step up and actively audit your surroundings to remove that friction preventing your good habits. Ask yourself right now, honestly, what food is easily available in your kitchen? Because if it's junk, your biology is going to eventually crave it. What is sitting on your work desk right this second? Does it promote laser focus or just pure distraction? Is your sleep space actually optimized for true recovery? And hey, are your training routines even realistic for the stress levels you deal with every single day? You have to design the physical space around you so that doing the good behavior just becomes the easiest possible consequence.
To build this environment intelligently, the ZADIMA system uses a super practical 5-step cycle: learn, apply, review, adjust, sustain. You see, you don't want to just rely on some rigid, stressful plan that instantly falls apart the minute life gets busy. Instead, you learn what your unique body needs. Then you apply a small, manageable change to your routine or your physical space. Next, you honestly review what happened without beating yourself up. You adjust the plan to fit your actual messy life, and that is exactly how you sustain it. It's not a strict rule book. It's a continuous loop of intelligent adaptation.
We've seen it all today, from Thorndike's cats to Skinner's rats, right up to modern biopsychology. The undeniable fact is that the spaces we inhabit define the actions we take. Your daily habits are just a perfect reflection of the environment you've built around yourself. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought. If your environment is always inevitably sculpting you, what exactly are you letting it create? Are you the deliberate architect of your surroundings, or are you just a product of them? Take a really good look around you today and start designing a space that makes your well-being absolutely inevitable.
ZADIMA Wellbeing Lab, the lab that studies how humans thrive.